Hi everybody, welcome to Our Sinclair. I'm John.
I'm Aaron.
And today we're going to be talking about Turbo Esprit. But you know what, Aaron? We heard from the programmer of last week's game, More T. Vicker. He actually wrote in and commented on our YouTube channel. He said, great to hear your thoughts, guys, and thanks for making the video. He says that in order to keep the game running smoothly, the game used a trick, and for much of the time, it wasn't scrolling the whole play area. It would bits of the screen containing no scenery would often drop out of the scrolling, and so the whole reason he wrote that was we were wondering why there was no music in the game, and basically the trick he was getting to use the game to scroll basically took up so much of the computing power that the music would have been impossible. So thank you so much, Jonathan, for writing in. And he also mentioned that the J and C cheat mode, that is his initials. That's why I put that in there.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
It does make sense. We should have got that.
Yeah. That was a pretty interesting game, pretty amazing considering what you were playing it on. It was quite remarkable.
Yeah, and we also heard from our newest Patreon member, Clive's Club member, Harbonaut. He is actually the artist for Chase HQ. He enjoyed our Chase HQ show on the Spectrum.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Both these guys are quite renowned in the Spectrum community, and they are on their have at least checked us out. In some cases, hopped on board. It's a great welcome aboard, man. We're glad to have you.
Absolutely.
We may be touching you up for some insight because I know his name pops up a lot in some of these games. That's real handy, isn't it?
Now, let me ask you a question, Aaron.
Before
we get into the show, on our last show we did on Amigos, we talked a little bit about computer shows, and I was wondering, I know you've been to quite a few computer shows in your life. These are kind of expos that they used to hold over at the Civic Center, right?
No, these were the ones I went to were in of all places. They were in Dayton, Ohio.
Really?
Yeah, they were at Hara Arena. It was the one that was the nearest one we would go to that were big. I've been to some in Lexington. I've been to a couple there at the basketball. What is the name of that place? I'd be murdered if I lived in Kentucky. I can't remember off the top of my head. But
Rupp Arena.
Rupp Arena. That's right. And the annex around it. But a computer show was basically a gathering of vendors, effectively. And the funny thing is, this shows you how things have gone. It's kind of funny you should bring this up because in Hara Arena, Dayton has a big-time ham radio club, or had, and I assume it's still there. And so this at first was a ham show, straight ham radio. And then eventually they brought in, it was a ham and computer show.
Okay.
And ham eventually was gone.
So this is like the Newport Jazz Festival, which became the Newport Jazz and Folk Festival, which became the Newport Jazz, Funk, and Rock Festival, and then from then on out, it was just the Newport Rock Festival.
Yeah, they just sort of phased out. Yeah, exactly the same. You would go to these things, and the reason we would go is because you would have access to hundreds of vendors that you would never have access to in your town.
Why couldn't you just look them up on the internet?
Because there was no internet, as you know, and no one was buying crap on BBSs. That was out. There was no way. There was no facility for that. So you would go to these computer fests, CompuFest, because it was called, very original, and they would have just people have tables set up, and Hara Arena is pretty massive. So you'd have people in the actual base of the arena and all parts around, where everything, all the halls, that would be full of these guys. And usually there'd be some gimmicks there. They'd be showing us some new stuff off that they were selling. I remember for a couple years running, they would have these very enterprising guys would bring in strippers, and they wouldn't get naked, but they'd get mostly naked, and they would be selling pictures of themselves with computer components in the background, them laying on computers.
Man, nothing I want to put on my wall,
or them licking a keyboard or something. It was okay. And they would have a pack of people because almost everyone at this was a man.
I was going to say, let's not say a pack of people. Let's be honest. This is a pack of men.
It was a pack of men,
lonely men,
and there was the only chick good looking. Otherwise, in the entire arena would be over. There were a couple of them over here. That's one thing I remember distinctly was this thing, and they were always right near the entrance when they had this. But they even had Amiga vendors there. The Amiga hat I've got, if you ever see me wear it, I bought that at one of the computer shows. Now, the Amiga, I don't remember seeing the Amiga there more than a couple times. And this was at a time when I knew the Amiga and I'd had an Amiga, but I was mostly the PC. So I think, and Amiga stuff was incredibly expensive, so that hasn't changed. I would go here, and because what I used to do was build systems and sell them. And so you would go here to get cheap knockoff video cards from the depths of Hong Kong. You would get cheap memory. You would get real wacky video cards. They just have stacks and stacks and stacks of boxes of motherboards of video cards. I bought all my cases here. I bought all my power supplies here because you could get them cheaper. You would buy discs. You'd buy here. They had rack. There'd be tons of vendors of nothing but public domain software. There'd be people selling boxed PC stuff. And it's funny, towards the end, you would start seeing people selling emulation packages. You would get your, hey, look, you can play all the Atari games for $19.99. You could get the disc.
Now, the reason why I bring this up on this show, on our Sinclair show, is that when you started going to these shows, was the PC already the dominant I mean, you weren't going to these back in your Coco days or anything like that, right?
No, this was the PC was the only, really, with the exception of a little bit of Apple. And a fragment of Amiga. There was, and no Atari at all. I never saw any Atari stuff. It was all PC. So these are guys that basically, if you're an American, I'm sure there's a British equivalent. Maybe you know it. There was a magazine called PC Shopper. It was like that thick. It was as big as a phone book almost. It was massive, and it was all ads. Right? There'd be a few articles, but it was all ads. This was like the physical representation of Computer Shopper. That's what it reminded me of. 1 million different people from all over the world, or all over the United States, coming in and selling this stuff. And we'd get guys from California. And it's funny, you'd have a table ran by a bunch of Arab guys, and you'd have some Indian guys here, and you'd have some Asian fellows here. I guess these guys had connections or whatever, and they would bring their wares. They were Russians. There was a lot of Russians at these shows. So it was actually kind of neat.
Yeah, it's kind of, you're meeting people from all over the world.
And you're haggling with this Russian guy. He's like, no, three, you need to pay 3. It's like, okay, and that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And everyone was ready to haggle and deal with you, especially if you were buying in bulk. And so you could get some good deals. They were a lot of fun. Eventually it wound down, and the ones I went to in Kentucky were much lamer and much more expensive. That's where they were unloading overpriced stuff. You could not get the deals you could back in the day. That scene just sort of dried up, much like Computer Shopper went from that as thick as a phone book to like almost pamphlet sized. It's just because the industry constricted, and a lot of those people got squeezed out, or went out of business or whatever, and so what you had left was what you had to deal with. And I think part of that was probably a combination of the rise of the internet, the fact that the PC world became more. I mean, there was a time where there was a zillion different peripherals, but then there weren't. There were 10 different motherboards, there were 5 different processors, then there were 3, then there were just a couple. In terms of makers of them, and so that stuff all constricted and they went away, and so that was pretty much in the computer show.
Yeah. I was curious because, and this is this week's community question for all of you listeners out there. Did you ever go to shows back in, let's say, 83? Were there computer shows that were held in big arenas in the UK or other places, where the Spectrum was popular? And did you see kind of the arena cordoned off into all these different, because talk about market fragmentation, 83, 84, you had the BBC, you had the Spectrum, you had the Amstrad, you had the PC, you had the Apple II, the Commodore 64, Going to one of those shows, could you imagine going to a similar show to what you went to in Dayton at that time with that many different systems out there?
It would be interesting because the times that I went, you're talking somewhere in the early 90s most of the time, and maybe 89. And so by that time, that stuff had all pretty much washed away. It would be awesome to be at a place to buy all this different stuff in one spot. Now you're just going to look like the Vintage Computer Festival or something like that, where you might be.
That's probably the closest representation these days. Yeah. Do you remember the very last show you went to? Did you know it was going to be the last one? Was it just like, boy, this is lame? I
did. I went to one. It may have been in Charleston or Huntington, but it was. They were selling LCD monitors and stuff, and everything was outrageous. And this is a time where something else that happened is like we would go for video cards, for example, and sound cards. Well, they'd all been integrated. That stuff just all went away.
Yeah.
And so integration took a lot of that stuff out of it as well. And people also got to the point where they didn't care that much. The people that actually bought PCs changed. Also, PCs became cheaper, so you couldn't undercut people. Like I sold computers to the state of West Virginia one time, and the way we did it was we were able to put these PCs together at a lower rate. But those days were over. And so if there's no money to be made, the system breaks down.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I knew it was over. LCD monitors charging $500 or $600, and everything was super outrageous. And there was only a few vendors there. And it was like it was all junk. It was that we were done. But that's the last one I ever went to. That's probably the last one I ever had that I saw. Yeah.
A sad ending, but not really.
We had a good time at all these. It was always a fun time. It was always a lot of fun.
Well, you know what else is a lot of fun?
What's that, man?
Turbo Esprit challenge.
Turbo, nice one, dude. Let's talk about the old Turbo Esprit. So, this bad boy was released, Boat, in '86. Pretty far up the road on the Spectrum. I think this came out after the Amiga had debuted.
Yeah.
And stuff. So it's kind of.
But the Spectrum was still going strong.
Yeah. And this was published by some fellows called Durell Software Limited. The author of this was a fellow named Mike Richardson. He did a lot of stuff. I wrote down some of this. It's funny, we have zero knowledge of the Spectrum, so I had to kind of look at what these even were, just understand what they were. He did some games, including Combat Links, Harrier Attack. We got to try this one, Jungle Trouble.
Ooh.
Lunar Landing, might be fun. Saboteur 3, Scuba Dive, Sigma 7, Spitfire, and Thanatos.
We know
cool.
about Thanatos.
The other fellow that worked on this was Dave Cummings, who I don't have anything else for him, just this. This was a 48K release, one player. When you played this, I used the keyboard. I'm guessing you used the keyboard as well?
No.
Oh, you used the joystick on it? Okay,
yeah.
I was wondering if... what did you think of the control on this thing? It's out of the gate. Did you?
Well, do we want to talk about that now?
Let's get ready. Well, because I asked this because you've got your choice of controls on this, and I chose to go with the keys on this, and of course the emulated keys you have to kind of find them and everything. But I did. I had tried the stick and just didn't too well. Did you have good problems? With the stick?
The controls are not the most intuitive in the world, but they made sense once you learn them. And the key is that you can't control your car like you're driving a car.
No, you cannot.
You got to think about it in a different way.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, before we get too deep into it, let's talk about what the game is. You control a car, and basically, from what I can gather here, and Bo, you stop me if I'm wrong here, you're basically out to thwart a drug deal, right? A massive drug deal. Now, this is one of these. And I'll say this is one of those games. But this game is unique given the era. The fact that pretty much you can do what you want. I mean, effectively, you get in your car. The view of this thing is a sort of it's almost like a test drive or something. You've got in terms of the view, you're behind the wheel and you see through the windshield, except you actually see the car as opposed to not seeing the car.
It's like test drive, kind of, but kind of not at all.
The wheel part's like test drive. That's what it reminded me of.
This game it's got to be unique. I can't think of any other game that has this viewpoint.
It's odd. You know what it really reminded me of is those games like you would get the ones that sit on your desk, and you've got the little wheel, and then you can see the car. That's what it was.
It's like the electromagnetic, or like the kids games where you have the strip of road that's really a piece of tape that rolls over and over again.
That's exactly. The first time I tried this, I'm like, oh man, this is really a weird feeling.
It took me a long time to realize that because at first I was looking at the perspective and I was like, well, maybe my car is just really high up and I'm driving in first person.
You were in
yeah, I thought I was just driving Bigfoot, and so
that would make a unique game.
Yeah, absolutely. It would make it easy to fight crime.
Yeah, no kidding.
You just roll over.
Yeah, just smash in the car.
But yeah, so you are looking at your dashboard, but you're also seeing your full car in front of you, just like you would a game like Pole Position.
That's right. So you drive through the town. Now you've got your map. The map you must have. You must use often. And it kind of gives you a hint of where you're at and what's going on. And then there'll be little messages that tell you, they're getting in a position. The deal is happening.
Right.
And you can really you can tackle this game in a few different ways. I would usually, I'll be honest. I had trouble being effective with my vehicle.
You were not an effective drug busting machine.
No, I was not. I was an effective car busting machine because I would repeatedly run into other cars, wreck. Sometimes I would try to wait until the deal went down. And I was like, now I'm springing to action, and inevitably I would wreck. It drove me nuts. So, what were your experiences? And I'm certain you did a little better than me.
Well, I read a lot of material online about this game, and the general consensus is that you use the map to kind of maneuver yourself into the center of town, because that's where most of the deals are going down.
I read that as well.
As soon as the deal goes down, then you just kind of drive around until you see that pink car. Okay, and the pink car is the dealer, and then the game becomes Chase HQ. Then you basically ram that car into submission until the enemy is apprehended, and then you do it all over again, and that's the game.
It's that part's less hard than Chase HQ.
Yes.
Like you could actually kill a car.
I was able to make the criminal submit in this game.
Yeah. One thing we should touch on is there are 4 different towns that you could pick from, which is kind of neat.
Yeah.
They're different.
They're
too.
different. Mm-hmm.
The layouts are different and stuff. The rendering of the screen is actually it's pretty remarkable. 48K boat.
Yeah.
And you're going through 3-dimensional building blocks, blocks of a town, including differences in the way things look. There's stuff going on around you. Other cars.
You see pedestrians on the road. You see cars, and this is you can't undersell this. The cars obey the rules of the road. They stay in their lanes when you come up to a traffic light, and if that traffic light's red, all the cars will stop until it turns green.
And something else that not only will they avoid you, if you're like, one thing I would do is stop in the middle of the road, and the oncoming cars would stop. They wouldn't just hit you.
So the enemy, or not the enemy, but the NPC cars in this game are actually much smarter than many Amiga racing game cars in the way that they act.
Well, the fellow that put this together literally just has traffic rules. I mean, they programmed it in, so it's kind of neat.
It's very realistic.
Well, I mean, as you're driving along, it does help you to know that the guy that's oncoming is not just going to swerve into your lane.
Right.
Because I didn't need that much. I didn't need that pressure. I was having enough trouble as it was. The cars look good. You'll occasionally see pedestrians. There's street lights and stuff. That's all pretty neat. Now there are occasions where you will have to make a turn where you screwed up. Then you have to make sort of which I had a heck of a time with this.
This is the most challenging part of the game, turning.
Yeah.
You have to press I don't know how it works on the keyboard with the joystick. You have to press the button and then push the direction. And if you do it just right, the scenery will shift.
Yeah.
You will have turned onto
cool.
a new block. And again, this is totally unique in games like this. Like, racing games, first of all, most racing games, you're not actually racing on, a full city course. You're racing on a predetermined loop or whatever.
Right.
This game gives you choice in where to go, and it's more of a choice than the outrun kind of pick your direction thing. This is, it's so unique. It really is. Can you think of another game that's like this on any 8 or 16
where you have
computer?
to where you wait to go run over a heroin addict car and 3D? No, I can't.
I'm talking about where you're actually negotiating a real city street block system.
No way.
Yeah.
I mean, if you play stuff like in the arcade, like turbos and stuff, they would render a city, but it was nothing like this.
Yeah.
This was this is a whole different ball game. It's quite remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I stunk. I had 0 success playing this game just due to the fact that I could not. I would hit this is one of those games where you just put the pedal down to the metal. You really sort of have to obey the traffic laws too. Otherwise, you're smoked. I gave up trying to win and just tried to look around and learn how to drive the car. I would try to go get the drugs, but I didn't. I don't know. I had trouble controlling.
I like this game too because it doesn't. This game is not a game where you it's not like pole position where your car blows up when you wreck and you're losing time. And it's not even like Outrun where your car flips over and you lose time, although you get back on there more quickly. This game works on a series of penalties. So you have a score, but whenever you do something that is against the laws of the road, or you run into something, which I guess is also against the laws of the road, you earn a penalty which deducts from your score. So, again, this is just a very unique take on a game where they could have made it just another kind of Chase HQ ripoff. Although, does this game predate Chase HQ in the arcade? I think it does.
In the arcade?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so.
You don't?
We did Chase because we did a port of Chase HQ, and it was well before '86. I know that. This is from '86. So when you say this would be after, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
We'd have to go back and look. You're asking someone with a horrible memory about dates. The good thing is your enemy, the pink and the blue cars, they stand out because of they basically light up the block as you go by, which that makes them easy to see because the world's basically in black and white, and plus where the sky color is. And I guess that's your color clash, which lighten it up. But actually, it's helpful.
Yeah.
It's to tell what's going on. So I did appreciate that.
I'm so glad they did it that way instead of trying to put like enemy car arrow.
Yeah. This is just as effective.
Mm-hmm.
The sound is hideous, of course. Yeah. They actually, from what I read, they consulted with Lotus on this game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what insight Lotus could have given them, honestly.
Right.
I mean, really.
Other than like the design of the car on the front
dashboard or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I'm guessing the dash don't look like that, but you never know.
You never know. I've never been in a Lotus. Maybe it does.
I haven't either. It's all blue with a bunch of pastel green and pink.
Yeah, looks like an XEGS in there.
I never would have guessed that, man. One thing I'll say is there's a lot of looking at the map, and so you're flashing back and forth a lot. That's another reason I use the keyboard.
I think that if they could have integrated, maybe made, and this is a game where the HUD is already mega constrained by your dashboard, but if they could have had some way of putting the map on the screen, it would have made this game so much. It would have allowed you to immerse yourself so much more in the experience.
Yeah. I don't feel qualified to say too much about this to give my lack of prowess at it. Like I said, I understand, and this is often, like you said, this is a GTA style game, which is probably, if not the first, one of the first that did it. And it is kind of neat to drive around just to watch the traffic and stuff, and go and check out. I checked out all the towns, to look at just to see the differences and stuff. But I guess if you're better at the controls than me, you'd have more fun. I just didn't think it was that much fun.
Like I said, I think using the keyboard really hampered you.
I used both, and I thought the keyboard was the easiest.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really had good luck with my stick. It was hard. It did take me a while to learn it. And still turning, I'd still make wrong turns and have to do 3-point turns and things like that.
That was a nightmare. Yeah. That was also tough. Now, the keyboard is a separate key for reverse. So probably actually one thing that make it easier for me, but it still was tough.
Yeah.
Turning corners was tough.
Yeah.
That stuff was tough. I'd like to have seen a little bit easier interface for that than what they had.
But I don't. But again, I don't know how they would have done it.
I don't either. This game was way ahead of its time. That's for sure. I did look up some scores on this. The people over at World Sinclair or World Spectrum gave this an 8.52, massive score.
Yeah.
Crash gave this 88%. The CBG 29 out of 40. Sinclair user 5 out of 5 stars. Your Sinclair 9 out of 10. Your computer 3 out of 5. And this also won a award from Sinclair user. It got the SU Classic Award. So it was a pretty well received game. I found these on eBay, believe it or not. I found a couple copies, $7. $7 in the UK. You can take this bad boy home. I will say that when I turn this thing on before we close it down, the building rendering stuff, it is quite remarkable. I mean, really, it's for 48K, it blows my mind. Because I will say, I love the Coco and stuff, and we didn't see this kind of gameplay. There's nothing even like in the ballpark.
No, I mean it runs so. I mean it's not smooth. I mean you see the frames, but it gives the illusion of speed. and the frame rate is not so atrocious that it makes the game suffer.
I gotta ask you, how far did you get into this? You said you took down. Because you could have beat this game, and it doesn't take that long. I watched a guy play through it. And he beat the game. Could you actually go all the way through and beat it?
No, I could get a couple. What I did was I wasn't sure how to beat the game. And so what I'd do is I'd kind of spend some time in a city. I'd find one or two cars and try and disable. Then I'd go to the other cities and just kind of see the differences.
Yeah.
This game would have been great. If this had come out a couple years later, you could have put out expansion discs with different cities on them, or different,
or maybe with different cars.
Yeah, different cars. This game, I'm really surprised that this was kind of all we heard from this genre until Grand Theft Auto came along. Really?
Well, I think in the case of this, it's just that it was the end of the run for this thing. With the next coming out. I wonder if this will be a game that gets revisited with maybe an update.
That would be great. That would be great.
That would be kind of a neat. I mean, listen, if you're going to redo a couple, if you juice up the controls on this a little bit, I think you got something. Like I said, that was the one thing that really hampered me from enjoying it.
Yeah. We did get some Discord community reviews this week. Graham Vebke reviewed this. He said, an open driving game that has lots of depth, driving in 4 cities, avoiding cars and pedestrians with the option to also chase drug barons. Turning the car into side roads and making 3-point turns can be a bit tricky judging the angles, but mastering this is part of this great game. 8 out of 10. Chris Folds says, GTA for the ZX generation. Multiple cities full of fast cars with guns, hitmen, and drug lords. What's not to like? A true classic that wowed me when it came out and is still fun today. 8.5 out of 10. And finally, Pixels at Dawn says, an innovative open world driving game way ahead of its time, but I found it was hindered by appalling turning controls and the need to keep switching to a map screen all the time.
Yep.
Points for effort, though, 6 out of 10. So thank you to our Discord community members for submitting those reviews.
And that was the problem I had right there, just the turning and the ability not to hit cars. And the map thing, but of course the map's sort of a necessary evil, and you're not going to get on-screen maps in this era. It's not going to happen. Hey, there's something else for the next.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I do want to remind everybody that if you have any questions or any feedback for the show, we'd love to hear from you. You can send us a message at feedback@oursinclair.com, or you can leave us a message on the YouTube video or however you listen to us. We are on Spotify. If you're a Spotify listener and you want to listen to the show on Spotify, feel free to. If you want to get our show notes, such as there's not really many show notes for this show, but if for whatever reason, if you need to download the MP3 of this show, you can do that over at oursinclair.com. Do want to welcome a new member, a new Patreon supporter, a member of Clive's Club. So he's actually going to be involved in choosing one of our upcoming episodes.
Outstanding.
This is Harbonaut. Harbonaut, most famous for being the artist on Chase HQ.
Yes, thanks for coming on board.
Among many other games.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. And so with that, I'd like to thank all of our Patreon supporters, Harbonaut, Graham Vebke, Frodo NL, Tapes from the Crypt, Pixels at Dawn, Chris Folds, Paul Harrington, and Christopher Hassel. Thank you for supporting the show.
Guys.
And if you do like the show and you'd like to throw us a couple bucks every month, patreon.com/Our Sinclair. Aaron, next week on the show, we're going to play a really funny sounding name.
What a shocker.
Quasitron.
Oh, Quasitron.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty good.
It does sound good.
Any idea what that is?
No, I know it's a shooter.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I don't know that at all. It might be an action game. I can't remember.
You're all over the map, but
I should have just said I didn't know, because I don't know. But I know that I'm going to enjoy playing it. And I hope you all enjoy your Spectrums this week. Aaron, until next time, rewind tape
and press play.